start. Good morning, friends in YouTube land. My last video really brought out a very interesting conversation with someone, I don't know, I assume is someone who they identify as Jewish, it would seem, and who has not yet become a Baal Teshuvah, whatever that means. I'm not sure. I also haven't yet become a Baal Teshuvah. We're all just trying. We're prepared to be full mekent. We try as much as we can, but it is what it is. It's not always. It's not something you become. It's something you're constantly doing. And with that being said, I don't know if I'm talking to a man or a woman, but they are identifying as Y613. So if you have 613 there, it seems there's something Yiddish there. You know, there's a big neshama there. There's a big soul right there. And these questions and things are, to me, they're very indicative of something very holy. But that being said, my ideology, I think, has been colored a little bit from one of my dear friends who I don't agree with everything on, but certain things have convinced me. My friend Rabbi Meza, as well as some other people, particularly Rabbi Yaakov Siegel, Zolgazensine, who I know they're not friends, the two of them, which I wish they were, because they have so much in common, but those things that they seem to have indifference or really maybe some improprieties of Reb Usher's youth. You know, it would be to Reb Usher's benefit to learn from Rabbi Siegel, who's a tremendous Talmud Chacham, who I had the source of meeting a number of years ago, and have kept up with on Facebook. He has more or less he has a blog which you could read, so you don't have to be on his secret Facebook group to to get all the benefits of what he has to offer. But so the blog, I think, is called Looking Up to the Sky, or Looking Up at the Sky. Looking Up at the Sky at blogspot.com. Certainly different things than you're going to hear in the standard, Orthodox world, but nonetheless 100% authentic and really Orthodox Hasidish, just different. And Judaism is a world that's filled with diversity. We have to get out of this my way or the highway mentality on all sides. I mean, it's just the same that from the so-called modern Orthodox, whatever, will tend to be just as fundamentalist, and in some cases more fundamentalist than the groups that are often identified as being the most fundamentalist, ultra-Orthodox, quote-unquote. I know people don't like that term. I prefer not to, but the fact of the matter is, when you look at the more extreme parts of the ultra-Orthodox world, quote-unquote, which I have a very strong connection to, and I to a large point identify with, even though I don't live up to all of their practices and all things, but I'm trying, I'm working on it, work in progress. But the fact of the matter is, they are not fundamental. What I love about these groups is they're not fundamentalist. They're very cloistered, but they're not very fundamentalist. And I think there's a difference between cloistered and fundamentalist. Which is fine, and the thing is, there is a problem with fundamentalism. There is a problem with extremism on all sides, and that's something we have to remember, is that you can be an extremist to the right and an extremist to the left, and even an extremist to the middle, meaning there is middle of the road fundamentalism that tries to discount anybody who is not in their middle of the road sense. And so we have to find a proper balance, and it's very difficult because a lot of things, for various reasons, don't really stick. People are attracted to a certain type of fundamentalism. It's easy, it's comforting, it feels good. But then there's a certain point where you have to realize it's not necessarily God's will. Although maybe at certain times in your life it might be God's will for you, and then you grow into someone who's more mature, who finds their middle path and how to live like that, and how to find those balances in life. This Y613 asked, he or she, I don't know, said, my family hasn't been observant for 4 generations. Does that mean I'm not really Jewish? So my first answer, which maybe wasn't the best answer for this person, I admit, was, my feeling is that every Baal Teshuvah who doesn't, certainly if they didn't know their from grandparents, and I, who knew my from grandparents, essentially did something along these lines, but the Gir L'Chumrah should be part of the life of the from Jew, who didn't necessarily grow up from. And really, I discussed a few years ago the Piasetzner, who I know is very popular now, who was a great thinker in addition to being a great tzaddik and a great author, a very talented writer. The Rebbe of Piasetzner wrote in his private diary, which was published, I think it's called Sabbath. I'm not remember which one of his farm that was published was his own private diary. And then when he turned 40 years old, he said, I feel like I'm ready to become a Ger Tzedek, to convert to Judaism. He's been a Rebbe, with many Talmidim and many Hasidim, and he's talking that he's ready to convert to Judaism. It reminds me of a story. My old Rabbi from high school, who is a big fan of the Piasetzner, probably one of the people who's most responsible for bringing attention to the Piasetzner in the past 15-20 years, although he was well known before that without Rabbi Weinberger's work. But Rabbi Weinberger's work has certainly been impacted by that. He named the shul Eish Kodesh after the Piasetzner's famous work on the Parsha, his commentary on the Pentateuch. And he tells a story. He was for many years a Rebbe at Ezra Academy, where I attended. I was there pretty much the last year he was there, late 90s, early 2000s. Hard to imagine, how much time has passed by. And the story goes, there was a bacher in the yeshiva who found out that his mother wasn't really Jewish. He had to go through a gerus. And they said, okay, it's not a big deal. We'll take you to the mikveh tomorrow. We have a bezdin set up. We'll get this done. And you'll be Jewish. The boy, he knew the next day would be when he convert. The night before, he came to Rabbi Weinberger's house and said, I need to sleep here tonight. I need to sleep at the rabbi's house. It's one night that I'm not Jewish. I don't know what I would do tonight. I might do something that I'll regret, even though he's allowed to, according to Jewish law. Go eat at bacon cheeseburger. Who knows, And apparently, most likely it was an issue of a suffix. He probably was chayiv in the mitzvahs. It was only chumrah, but let's say he found out he was totally not Jewish, and there was no way of going, and he absolutely had to convert, or he could just decide today he's not Jewish anymore. That's it. And he was so afraid of that time that he, this is how he handled it. And the story that Rabbi Weinberger tells, he asks all of us, what would we do if we found out tomorrow that we weren't really Jewish? And how would we handle that, Would we drop the whole thing? Would we take a break for a week and then come back? Or would we say I can't go 5 minutes without being Jewish, right? And going back, I mentioned my friend Rabbi Meza, who he says that anyone who he asks, if you found out you weren't Jewish, would you convert? They all say yes. I remember there's one good friend of mine who said no. A guy who goes to the whole Hasidic Levush, and he's very frum. And he said, no, I'm just doing this because I know I have to. If I could just keep Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, it would be good enough for me. The fact of the matter, though, is that there's other issues with that. I am one to remember what my Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Moshe Lazarus, Shlita, tremendous guy, big dayan, big Rosh Yeshiva, finishes Shas twice a year. Tremendous person. And he said a story from, I think it was Rav Ruderman. It was one of the Rosh Yeshiva from near Yisrael, that he got a call from a girl who was in Johns Hopkins Medical School, and she said, she had a roommate in college who was frum. This girl was Catholic, from a Catholic family, and she had a roommate in college who was an Orthodox Jewish girl. And her friend went out one night, and she didn't have a date or anything, so she was stuck home in the dorm. And she noticed this book that her roommate had from Rav Shamshon Rafal Hirsch, Baal Shem Tov of Germany, Rav Hirsch. And the very famous book he wrote, Chorev, goes through the 613 mitzvos, why rationally we should believe in the Torah and the mitzvos. She said she read the whole book cover to cover. It's a pretty big book. And she became convinced that this is the truth. And she said, her family would disown her if she would become Jewish, they were very devout Catholics, but she knew that she was obligated to keep the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, the 7 laws of Noah. And she called near Yisrael, said, I need to speak to the biggest rabbi here. I think it was Rav Ruderman, or maybe it was Rav Weinberg. I'm not sure who it was at the time. Anyway, I think it was Rav Ruderman. And she asked, is she chayav misa because she sat on her roommate's bed without her reshus? Is she liable halachically to the death penalty because she sat on her roommate's bed without her permission and therefore violated theft? Ben Noach is chayav pachas m'shavah pruta, is liable to the death penalty for theft that's even less than the value of a small coin, a penny, a nickel. As even the slightest amount of theft is a capital offense. Doesn't mean he's going to get the death penalty, but I mean, he's liable. He's committed such a grave sin which is not the case for the Jew. He would have to just return with it, the loss, and it's not. And according to the story that Rabbi Lazarus told, that I guess it was Rav Herman said yes, in the Chayiv Misa, or and from that Rabbi Lazarus said that it's best then for anybody who believes in Torah to convert to Judaism, because to be a Ben Noach it's much harder to be a Ben Noach than to be a Jew. Even though you have to keep more stuff, you have to keep Shabbos and kosher and all that stuff, that's easier than avoiding the smallest amounts of theft, which are a sin for a Jew as well, but they're not a capital sin. That's what Rabbi Lazarus said. I mentioned this to Rabbi Siegel, and he said, well, some Rishonim understand that to be that you're not Chayiv Misa. It's not that there's a heavenly tribunal that says it's Chayiv Misa. It means that the earthly courts have the right to administer any punishment that they see fit for violation of these crimes, up to and including death, but there's no mandate for death. It seems from the Rambam, though, it would be a mandate, but from other Rishonim disagree, which makes it a little bit easier. But still, we see there's an idealism that anyone who believes in Torah should be Jewish, and that really we should see being a Ben Noach as being second best. Now we can judge the other faiths, perhaps, by the 7 laws of Noah. We can say, well, under the 7 laws of Noah, a Christian is a pretty good person. A Muslim is a pretty good person. Even many of these other faiths that we can discuss whether or not what exactly Avodah Zarah means for a non-Jew. But when someone becomes convinced of the truth of Torah, why relegate yourself to within the Torah world? I don't mean within the world at large. In the world at large, we're equals to Christians and Muslims and Buddhists and so forth. And in a certain sense, we are, as Jews, as an exiled people until the Messiah comes, even with this so-called state of Israel, we are still, as an exiled people, somewhat in a second class. And that's what we tell someone who seeks conversion, that don't you realize we Jews in exile in this world are persecuted, and there's people hate us, and we've suffered tremendously. But of course, that's all in this world. Meaning the true convert would recognize, our Chazal say, that he doesn't feel even worthy to the suffering of being part of the Jewish community. And that's actually a gift, and that what really matters is what happens in the next world. And then we should welcome such a convert with open arms immediately. No, there's no such thing in Chazal or in the Rambam or in the Shulchan Aruch. You have to study for 6 months or a year or 2 years or 3 years, and then we convert you, maybe. And then even after that, we give you a hard time. That's not the Jewish way. That's not the Torah way. The Torah way is, all right, we tell you a little bit what you're getting into. You realize that until now you could eat chaylev, and you weren't chayav kares, you could eat forbidden fats, and you didn't receive this punishment. You could break Shabbos. You weren't liable to the death penalty. And now if you accept this upon yourself, you will be obligated to these things. Whether or not you keep them, that's your business. But you'll be obligated to keep this stuff. And that's really all conversion is. And then we make the bris. We make if it's a man, or toughest on bris, we go to the mikveh. The person accepts upon themselves in front of the Bezdin that they are accepting to keep the mitzvos, the Torah mitzvos, the rabbinical mitzvos, the authentic Jewish customs, according to the Rambam, and that's what I'm always machmir on, although I know some Rabbanim might not. You believe in Yud Gimel Ikrim, you believe in the faith of Torah, and then you're just as Jewish as anybody else. You know, Mayor Kahana, who everyone used to say was a racist, and I disagreed with a lot of his ideas. But Mayor Kahana said, if tomorrow Arafat would convert, he'd be just as Jewish as Kahana. And it's true. So Judaism's not a racist religion. So anyway, this person asked, well, after I said this, that, I feel, that anyone who's not any Baal Tshuva should go to the mikveh. According to the Rambam, there's an idea that we accept anybody who regularly goes to the mikveh as being part of the Jewish community. There is a Rambam like that. It's just when it comes to marriage, maybe, we might expect to have it to Bezdin, But essentially anybody who goes regularly to the mikveh is Jewish. There are different opinions about what that means exactly. Obviously, that's not normative, but that's, but for someone who normatively would be accepted as Jewish, like this case, in general, a lot of people will say, why you identify this person? They identify as Jewish because 5 generations ago they could find an ancestor who was Jewish, who was from. Well, somehow they made it 4 generations not from, and still stayed Jewish. Who knows if it's true or not? I don't know. To me, there's no way of proving that because there's no chazaka. There's no. We say the same thing. If someone comes along and says they're a Kohen, we're not going to stop them from duchening. If there's no other Kohen in shul, we'll give them the Kohen aliyah, right? But then, this person who assumed they were Kohen, then they want to marry a grusha, they want to marry a divorcee that a Kohen, that a priest cannot marry, right? So then what's the story? Well, this person came from a frum home. There's very little that can be done. If the person didn't come from a frum home, didn't have frum grandparents, great grandparents, how do we know you're really a Kohen? Just because your name's Katz? Because your name's Cohen? You're a Kohen? We have no way of knowing that you're really a Kohen. That's how it is. And so therefore we can say, you're not a Kohen. And in that same way, it would make sense, although this is a little bit more difficult to say, if you don't have any, if you never met a frum grandparent, like, how do you know that you're really Jewish? And so let's make you go to the mikveh. Why not? What's the big deal? It's not that difficult. I don't mean you have to learn for 3 years and this and that. I just mean you go to the mikveh, Gir l'chumrah, 1, 2, 3. It's not that big of a deal. You know, most likely you had a bris. There's machlokas whether or not you should make a tafastam bris. Personally, I feel if you had a bris with a moil, you know, even they didn't have in mind the same gear, especially since it's a suffix, you know, and the most moil, and probably when they're dealing with non-frum families, they know they're going to want to say, you know, that it's essentially, all right, 29, still have 300 miles to go until the next oil change. I think I could wait until next week, maybe 2 weeks, so I get paid again. But, you know, that's the, these are the questions we have to ask ourselves and so forth. Anyway, that being said, you know, being so this guy said, I'm not sure. Do I really want to be Jewish? Maybe there's a way out. Halachically, I wouldn't say in that case. I would say, yeah, you should make a Gir l'chumrah just to be on the safe side. But there's enough of a suffix to say you cannot go back to being a Gentile. Most likely, it's very hard to go and say that this person is not Jewish at all and has it's not chayav in mitzvahs. But the question is, why would a person ask that question? And my feeling is as follows. The Orthodox community has made things, I mean, there's the Herman, Rabbi Yonatan Lavie from California, who has become, you know, Rabbi Siegel's become very enamored with him. And Rabbi Yonatan Lavie, he said, you know, we all know the story. I mean, I heard this in Hebrew school, you know, how the snake, you know, Adam told Eve, don't touch the tree. God said, don't even touch the tree. And the snake, the Medrash says the snake pushed her against the tree, and she saw she didn't die, so then she ate from the tree. We know the Medrash. And we have to recognize, we have to be educated Jews. We need to know what is Doraisa, what is Darabanan, what is Chumrah, what is Minhag, what is Shtus. You know, what is a biblical or Torah obligation? Biblical is not really accurate because there are Torah obligations that are not explicitly in the Bible. What is rabbinical, which we're still obligated to do, but when there's a doubt, the rabbis only enacted it in these cases. What is astringency? Meaning it's advisable, perhaps, to do under certain circumstances, but not necessary. What is customary, which is important to keep customs, but again, what kind of customs are we talking about? There are universal customs, and there are local customs, and then not everything that people are accustomed to do is an authentic custom. It might be silly and ridiculous. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. I know some people say, no, you shouldn't do it if it's silly. But, you know, there is certain things that we could call, I know by the Muslims, they distinguish between religion and culture. And it's a big thing, you know, what's religious and what's cultural. by us we have many more degradations, and there's certain culture aspects that we might know have no source. Like I mentioned the other day, garlic on Passover, although there might even be a reason for that, but the Satmarov said there's no reason for it, but he still did it. But or even things that might even be essentially problematic, like schlitzelchal or something like that. But still, I know Rabbi Siegel would say it's absolutely forbidden, or nittelnacht, things like this. But there are certain things that are part of our culture that I don't necessarily see as problematic to follow certain practices, as long as you have the right intentions. The same thing, kaparas, all kinds of things. And these type of questions. But the thing is, certain people, they make it seem like, if you don't shlok kaparas with a chicken, you don't even have to shlok kaparas with money. You don't have to shlok kaparas at all. There's no chiyuv to shlok kaparas. And it's just as problematic to shlok kaparas with money as it is to shlok kaparas with a chicken, to be honest. But every year I shlok kaparas with a chicken. But if you're gonna say someone's not, there's something wrong, they don't shlok kaparas, that's shtus. That's ridiculous. When especially the Shulchan Aruch says you shouldn't shlok kaparas. These types of things, and I'm gonna have to make another video about this because I'm already at work and I'm already late for work. And but essentially, these are the types of things we have to recognize. I think, the same thing Rabbi Yonatan and Lavie talks about. Do you have to look for a hechsher on everything, or is it enough just to check the ingredients? And for the most part, most things that are kosher have a hechsher on them in America. But there's sometimes when you're out of town, something, does soda need a hechsher? No, it doesn't need a hechsher. I personally won't drink soda generally without an OU on it, some kind of hechsher, I know some people, even with the OU, won't drink the soda, But halachically, unless it has grape juice in it, and even the grape juice, most of the grape juice we have today is technically kosher. It's just because it's already been, what do they call that? Pasteurized. Even the grapes themselves are cooked before they even make the juice. That's how they make the juice. I won't drink such grape juice. And even when I was asked, at work about, Welch's grape juice, there's a K on it. Why can't we give it to our inmates? Someone in another institution asked this, and I said, my answer was by standard Orthodox. I didn't get the keys again. By the regular Orthodox standards, we don't we don't use this grape juice. It's not kosher according to most Orthodox standards. I didn't say it's not kosher. I said not kosher by most Orthodox standards. And that's the truth. Alright, I'm going to have to finish this video now. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment, and we'll see you later.